are for round 2 of notes. Again, should be getting done on Tuesday, April 7th. Sorry, I learned from the first video that I need to have some water on hand because the throat's getting a little dry. Not getting sick, just dry. A little dehydration going on. What are you barking at? Again, hopefully everything is going okay with you guys. Hopefully you guys didn't have any issues getting day 1 of work done. So now we're moving on to day 2. So we did 6.1 yesterday. We're doing 7.1 today. So how a bill becomes a law. Again, so it's going to be explaining more the process of how a bill becomes a law, and moving on from there. So again, pretty simple here. Make sure you're getting your vocab done. Make sure you're getting your success criteria done once you're done. If you're taking hand notes, make sure you're submitting them to me. That way I can give you guys some bonus points for getting it done. Again, things are pretty simple here. We're doing 7.1 today, 7.2 on Wednesday, and 7.3 on Thursday. And then you guys will be off for spring break. Shouldn't be anything too crazy. Again, hopefully you're able to enjoy the holiday safely, with Easter coming up if you're celebrating Easter. And you know, just keep doing you, keep your social distance, be safe. But yeah, let's go and get into today. So today we're doing 7.1, how a bill becomes a law. Again, I'm going to say things probably at least 100 times, not because I mean to, but also because you guys need to hear it a couple times. So today's success criteria. Number 1, identify the 2 types of bills Congress can introduce and explain each. So shouldn't be anything too crazy there. I say that shouldn't be too crazy like a billion times, but I've noticed already. 2, identify and explain the 3 resolutions Congress can pass. 3, explain a rider in Congress. 4, explain the process of how a bill is introduced. 5, identify the 3 ways Congress members can vote on a bill. And then finally 6, explain the president's 4 options regarding a bill. So again here, this is all focusing about bills and how bills in a way become law. So nothing too crazy here. So quick intro of the thousands of bills introduced each session, only a few hundred become laws. So we're talking hundreds and hundreds of bills are coming in, not necessarily hundreds, but thousands. But only a few hundred actually become laws throughout this whole process. Most die in Congress and some are rejected by the president. Again, we kind of talked about this before. The president is able to veto a bill if he does not believe it's number 1, if he doesn't like it, or if he doesn't agree with it, or if he believes it's going to be too hard to enforce. If a bill does not pass before the end of a congressional term, it must be reintroduced in Congress the next term. So it's got to start completely over. So again, pretty easy stuff here to get going. Quick little intro. Now, getting into today, the first success criteria here, types of bills and resolutions. Members of Congress introduced the following types of bills. Number 1 is a private bill. It deals with individual people or places, usually involves people's claims against government, and small amount of bills here. So private bills are typically things that are super, super, super small and have to deal with an actual individual, not everybody in the United States. So the bill wouldn't necessarily apply to everybody is what I'm saying here. The next one is public bills. So this is where we really get into the meat and potato of things, where it's kind of bigger, it's larger, it's kind of meant for everybody. So it deals with general matters and applies to the entire nation, usually involves major issues. So again, things like marijuana use are a big thing with the national government. Taxing, what else is a big issue? Yeah, that's all I can really think of right now. That's kind of early in the morning, so still getting our bearings here. The second thing here, types of resolutions. Congress may also pass the following types of resolutions. Number 1, or I guess the letter A here, is a simple resolution. It covers matters affecting only one house of Congress and is passed by that house alone. So again, if the Senate's having an issue with something, they're going to be the one who brings in a simple resolution and tries to solve it in-house. That's why the whole idea is simple, because if it's an issue, like imagine you have an issue with yourself, right? That's simple. It's not complex because you're the only one who knows about it and you're the only one who really needs to fix it. Where if other people were involved with an issue, it becomes a little bit harder to understand, and it becomes a little bit harder to fix. Where we're getting to B and C. So B is a joint resolution. So pretty normal here. Again, we talked about joint type things again with the House and the Senate last unit. So again, think about like your elbow, right? So imagine this is House of Representatives and this is the Senate. The joint connects them together. So again, a joint resolution is passed by both the houses, requiring the president's signature. So the president has to sign off on it. Used to correct an error in an earlier law. So for example, if there's some mistaken wording or if there's some issues with the law, they're actually able to go through and kind of correct it and then have the president sign it into action to make sure everything's going to be okay. And then C, concurrent resolution, so covers matters requiring action of both House and Senate. So again here, really the only big difference between a joint resolution and concurrent resolution is, they both require action from both sides, but the joint resolution is fixing like a prior mistake. So that's really the only big difference there, so just make sure you're paying attention to that. Next thing here, riders. No, we're not talking about people who ride their bikes or people who are out riding around on motorcycles, things of that nature. Some bills have riders. A rider is a provision on a subject matter other than the one covered in the bill. So for example, a rider could be simply like saying like, hey, we're going to give you this budget bill. Simple, right? It's talking about budget. But they could also attach other things in there to try to pass it along with it that don't have anything to do with the budget. That, like for example, you could be talking about a budget bill and you'd be like, oh, well, we need more money. Right? Simple. Government needs more money. You'd be like, oh yeah, sweet, that sounds all good, right? Until you realize it could be defunding Planned Parenthood. Like you're like, oh, well, we're just going to get rid of Planned Parenthood and take all the money and use it there. And all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I don't agree with that. That's where riders are the issue here, because riders can kind of come through and we could say, oh yeah, we want more money for this budget bill. Like we're going to change the budget. Until you realize what the riders are, like what are they riding along with, what are the big changes, like how are we actually going to get this money. So things like that. It's very slimy in a lot of ways, because a lot of times if it's passed by the Democrats may be pushing for, oh well, we're going to take this money and give more to Planned Parenthood, where conservatives on the Republican side might be saying, no, we're going to defund Planned Parenthood and we're actually going to lower taxes along with this budget bill. Kind of defunding the national government, which a lot of times kind of seems slimy, because you're not doing what you were actually saying you're going to do. You're throwing in all this extra stuff trying to make it happen, which kind of makes sense, which was a huge issue with the stimulus bill that was being put in place, because the wording of it supported big corporate businesses and not small business owners. Like, how does it make sense to provide even more money for these giant corporations that already have a ton of money and not helping out these small businesses, that are all around all around America that need it just as much, if not more, because they're not being able to sell right now. Things like that. Lawmakers attach riders to bills that are likely to be passed, although the president has vetoed such bills because of a rider they do not like. So again, it's not like they're attaching it to something that's questionable that's going to get passed. They're like, this is rock solid, this is going to get passed, so then they kind of throw it in there to see if it'll get by. Same idea here. Everyone thought, oh well, the stimulus package will get passed the first round. Like, there's no issue. Like, we know everyone needs money, until they went through and kind of read the fine print. They're like, yeah, they're trying to kind of swindle us here a little bit, and so they denied it. Simple. Next thing here, again, how bills are introduced. So we talked about this before with the hopper. So again, kind of same idea here. So ideas for a bill can come from private citizens, interest groups, the president, or officials in the executive branch. So it can really come from anywhere. So let's say you're like a special interest group. If you watched the Tiger King, Big Cat Rescue, helping out tigers, that is a special interest group. So they could be talking more about the conservation of animals when they introduce the bill. So only members of Congress can actually truly introduce it, though. But these private citizens, these interest groups, they can kind of come in and let their feelings be expressed, and hopefully have the lawmakers side up with them and then actually make it happen. But only the actual members of Congress can introduce the bill. And again, representatives drop bills in a hopper. We talked about that before. And then each bill is given a title, number, and printed and then distributed to lawmakers for their review to kind of go through and see what they can actually do a little research in their little committees that we talk about. Again, joint committees, things of that nature. Standing committees, pretty simple. Next thing here, voting on bills. Members of Congress can vote in multiple ways. So one is a voice vote, which is very simple here. Like, for example, I think we've done this in class, where if I say all in favor, say yes, for them they say A, so they're saying A, meaning that they agree. And like, you'll go through like a roll call, so I'd be like, so and so, do you agree? And they'd say yes or no. Pretty simple. Standing vote, those in favor stand, so it's really just as a little bit easier. You just have to go through and count. So standing vote, those in favor stand and then are counted, and then those who oppose stand and are counted as well. So for example, if 10 people stood up, you would count those 10 for yes, and if 5 people said no, then you would count the 5 people who said no. So it'd be 10 versus 5, and it would pass. And then finally, roll call vote, so each person's name is called and they say A or no. Simple, nothing too crazy. Presidential actions on bills. So again, we've talked about this before a little bit. The first biggest one obviously being they're able to veto it. I mean, we've talked about this a billion times, that the president doesn't like it, he can veto it. So after both House of Congress approve a bill, it is sent to the president. The president may do a number of things here. The first one is simple. He can sign it in the bill and it becomes a law. Pretty easy. If it's signed, it becomes law, and then it's all of a sudden being enforced by him. B, keep the bill for 10 days without signing. If Congress is in session, it becomes a law. So if it just sits on his desk and he doesn't do anything with it for 10 days, it becomes law. He has to make if he's going to make a decision, he either needs to sign it or he needs to veto it. Or there's a final option, which is kill a bill passed during the last 10 days of Congress is in session by refusing to act on it. This is what they call a pocket veto. So it has to be on his desk for 10 days. And let's say there's only 8 days left in a congressional term, then it dies because it hasn't been able to sit on its desk for those 10 days. So then it basically kills it, and it has to start all over again in the next term. So a lot of times this is even more stressful because it's even more work for Congress when they come back, because they have to start over like from the beginning. So that's everything for today. Again, I don't think this is anything too hard. Like I said, I'm just kind of going through and explaining the notes a little bit more in detail, trying to provide a little bit more example. Again, make sure you're getting your work done. This video is about 13 minutes long, about 5 minutes shorter than the one before. So again, they'll keep going a little bit quicker. They'll keep going a little bit quicker as time kind of wears on and I get better at this. And obviously once my dog stops squeaking her toy all the time, it's crazy. It's like when I was in class and everyone would come into class late and distract, or people would stand up and talk. It's nuts. That's my dog. I'm not safe anywhere. So again, make sure you're getting your work done. Make sure you got your vocab done today. Make sure you went through and watched the notes. Make sure you got your success criteria done. And that's all you got to do today. So hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. Again, stay safe. Make sure that you're keeping your social distance, and make sure you're washing your hands. Please wash your hands. Have a great day. See you guys tomorrow.